Right. First of all, can I confirm that the meeting is now being live streamed?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We're live streaming.
Yeah. Means that everything that's said is recorded and beamed out in, to all four corners of the known universe. Right. So, once again, good morning, members. I'd like to welcome you all to the Planning Committee, and that, of course, is extended to members of the public. There's no planned fire drill today, so if the fire alarm does sound, members of staff will guide you safely out of the building. There's a couple of more things I would like to address to. Can I please remind members, indeed members of the public, those that's dedicated to speak clearly into their microphones in order that this can be picked up on the live stream. I was told this morning that we've had some issues with the equipment, so just bear that in mind. We've got some backups there in case one of these actually, just packs up. And also, can I remind everybody that could you please either turn your mobile phones off or switch them on to silent for the duration of the meeting, please? And finally, those that have just been here before, we know that members of the public can speak on planning matters if they are on my speakers list. If your name isn't on this list or I've not been notified of as such, then I have to politely remind you that you cannot take part in the meeting in any way. And these meetings are very important, and it's absolutely crucial that members get an opportunity to listen to all sides of the presentation without any interruption. So please, would you bear that in mind? Thank you. And finally, for members of the committee, when the meeting's finished, can you please leave your committee papers in the lockable bins, which can be found near the doors as you leave the chamber? And could you also please dispose of any paper cups, water bottles or general rubbish in the waste bin provided? Thank you. So I think that's that done. So moving on, the first item on the agenda is apologies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillor David Hall.
No more?
No.
Okay. Item 2, any disclosures of interest, colleagues? Councillor Aldridge.
I'm the ward councillor. Oh, I'll put the microphone on because you won't hear me otherwise. I'm the ward councillor for North Thoresby, but I haven't been involved in any discussions.
Okay. Any other apologies, colleagues? Councillor Jones.
I do know Christopher Henich as a landowner. I've no communication with him and never got involved with anything regarding this application.
Okay. Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that I'm a Lincolnshire County Council representative on the Wolds Management Committee, but I've had no dealings with this at all. Sorry, the first item on the agenda. Is it
okay? Fine? Any more? I think a number of us are members of the Lindsay Master Drainage Board. I don't that doesn't feature in these items, does it? But it's there for a matter of public record, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So, having done that, item 3 is minutes of the meeting, which was held on the 3rd of November 2022. They have been circulated. Is it your wish I sign those as a true record? Yeah. Is that proposed by Councillor Matthews, seconded by Councillor Jones? All in favour? Thank you. Item 4, update from the Planning Policy Committee. Is that you, Councillor Dennis?
Yes, Chairman, there is none at the moment. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. Right, colleagues, we now move into the main items of business today. There are 4 planning applications, and the first one relates to land off Donington Road, South Willingham. And are you doing that instead of the case officer, are they? Right. Okay, would you like to start the presentation, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, apologies. Unfortunately, the case officer's poorly, so I'll take this presentation. Firstly, just to confirm, it's an application for change of use of land for recreational use as a cycle park, associated with the construction of cycle tracks, trails, and erection of a building to be used as a visitor centre, provision of car parking, and construction of vehicular access. You'll have noticed that the officer recommendation is to approve with with conditions. Looking through the presentation briefly, the red circle, the aerial photo, the red circle gives you a general indication of where the site is. It lies within the Wolds. You can see the A157 to the north, South Willingham Village, and then Donington Road on the south of the slide. The site lies to the north, including part of and near to this woodland area. Again, another aerial photo just showing it a little bit closer and giving a general indication of the location of the site. Red line plan giving you the absolute delineation of the site, so you can see the southern boundary aligned with the road to the south, incorporating areas of woodland, and the boundary contiguous with edges of woodland to the northeast there. Key issues, we put a slide in here just to hopefully be helpful for members. That's just identifies the key issues for this one. And so that is principal development in this location, the impact of the development on the character of the area and the setting of the AONB, highway safety and capacity issues, impact on heritage assets, impact on ecology, on the woodland, on amenity of residents in the area, and foul and surface water drainage. So that's just hopefully a helpful reference for the key issues for this one. So site layout plan, as you can see there, it shows the various elements of it. The access track, sort of central, running down. There's a central hedge feature, strong hedge feature within the site. The access track runs down there to the areas of the car parking and the visitor centre area, sort of fairly central to the site. The tracks arranged around there and through the woodland. Again, another plan showing similar thing, but also giving indication of the phased areas for the development. So a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. The latter one, sorry, in a phase 4, the visitor centre intended to be presented within the third phase. Elevations and plans of the proposed visitor centre. You can see fairly contemporary building, set fairly low in scale, and as I mentioned before, central to the site area. And the CGI showing what that would look like. Sort of indicative layout areas again, the learn to ride track that's set close to the visitor centre, beginner's track basically. Known as the pump track. And these are just examples of what that involves. It's probably a little bit more helpful, I think, to understand what is involved in that. So obviously shows you what the rides would look like and the nature of those. Obviously these aren't peculiar to this site. These are just examples of the sort of thing that's involved in it. And again, drawings giving an indication of those features and their scale. Average heights, maximum heights for the various trails that would be within the site. A traffic route plan. One of the issues is that of access to the site and traffic routes. This gives an indication of where the site is. It gives an indication of where the likely routes would be and how management would seek to ensure that was the case. So the main roads coming over from Lincoln, from the south, Horncastle, Skegness, Boston, Louth direction, also from the Grimsby direction, and then coming in from the north from Caister, Gainsborough and Scunthorpe. So fairly central site in that context of the larger centres within the area. And onto the photos. Hopefully, to start with, we've got a handful of photos that have been provided, taken by drone, so they're quite helpful to give a context of the site. I think they probably speak for themselves, really. Just show the site within the broader Wolds landscape context. And some more specific ones. This slide shows you, it's taken from the access point and it's looking in the southwest direction down towards the village, down towards South Willingham. So the site sits to the right behind the hedge there. That's the site boundary. Again, from similar location, but looking north east towards High Street. So site on the left in this case, behind the grass verge, and then the hedgerow. That's the point of access. It's an existing field access, and that's where it's proposed to take the access to this development. And then a number of photos that just sort of show you around the site, hopefully to give a better understanding and feel for its context again. So this one, I think, is taken from just inside the access, along with a few more. We'll move around from the west of the site towards the middle of the site. And I think on one in 2 or 3 times, you'll see that central hedge feature that I mentioned. It sort of moves around to the west. That's the central hedge feature, I think, that was mentioned on there. I think I'm right in this one. I hope I'm right in this one. That this one's, again, I think this is to the south end of the hedge. Where the hedge runs in a north-south direction. And this is sort of looking towards where the access track will run alongside the central hedge towards the car park. I think that's right. Yeah, thanks, Mike. And again, on this one, stood near the centre of the site, looking southwest towards the southern part of the woodland. The northern end of the hedge, and then that's looking in a east northwest direction, looking east at the middle hedge. Southwest.
One.
The northern field within the site facing northeast. And then the northern field again facing to the north, this with the A157 you see identified in the background on this slide. The northern edge of the woodland, and some more close photographs of the woodland itself. Further photos showing how the land slopes down towards that woodland, and then a final few photos, again just showing the woodland context of the site, that woodland edge of it to the north. I've got all the northwest, south, and east right on that one. So if we'll try to follow that one. And a final slide on this one at the moment, just hopefully to give again a little bit of a reference to the conditions that have been proposed by the officers for this. There are a range of conditions which we feel will cover the relevant issues in an appropriate way. So that's just to draw attention to those. So as you can see from that, they cover a whole range of issues, obviously in more detail referenced in your report. And that's it. Thank you, Jim.
We concluded then, Mr. Booth. Thank you. Right, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I have indicated 4 speakers on this particular item. And the first one is Christopher Henage. Would you like to come down, please, to take the microphone there, if you will? Are you going there, right? Right, okay.
Which one? That one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, before we start, has everybody had a chance to read the supplementaries? Okay, sure, right. Okay, so right then, you have 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. So if you can speak clearly into the microphone in your own time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to speak. I am the applicant, and my family have lived, worked and farmed in this part of the Wolds for centuries, and I feel a strong sense of duty to protect and enhance this wonderful part of Lincolnshire. The Wolds are a living, working and managed landscape, and they need to evolve as such if they're to continue to support rural communities. This development is in line with local and national policy and will welcome more visitors and residents to the Wolds and help unlock their enjoyment of the AONB. It will create employment, it promotes a healthy lifestyle, and it will bring economic growth to businesses in the surrounding area. The proposal will provide a significant ecological and biodiversity net gain. The trails will be incredibly low impact, constructed with soils from the site and dressed with local aggregate, ensuring they are less impactful than a farm track. The carbon footprint of the build will be offset by planting native trees, grasses, and wildflowers, with the highly efficient visitor centre sitting sympathetically within the landscape whilst being both practical and user-friendly. Overall, the park will sit hidden in a fold of the Wolds, with its whole ethos centred on an approach that is low impact and sympathetic to its environment. This is demonstrated in the submitted LVIA with verified landscape views, proving that there will be no harm to the landscape character of the AONB. Indeed, numerous other AONBs like the Cotswolds and Cannock Chase already home to similar facilities like this. LCC Highways have made no objection to this application. At the request of Highways, we have agreed to provide parking places on the Donington Road. But in recognition of local concerns, all traffic travelling to the site will be routed around the village to use the access off the Caister High Street, and car sharing will be incentivised to minimise the number of vehicle movements. The scale of the site, at around 100 acres, is to ensure that the trails are low density. There will be far more green space than dressed earth. For visitors enjoying the park, it's meant to feel like you're cycling in the great outdoors. The size of the site is its strength, and it will minimise any impact on the character of the countryside. I am not a fly-by-night developer. I am a long-standing member of the Wolds community. I would not be considering
You
a
have 30
project
seconds
that
left,
harms the
Speaker.
very
Thank you.
landscape community that my family are a part of. With that sentiment in mind, if this application is approved, as has always been the case, my door will be open to local residents and the parish council to discuss any concerns they may have. This proposal is a force for good, and I hope you can recognise the huge benefits that this project will bring to everyone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to take a seat at the back there? Yes, there, yes, just there. Thank you. Is Rosanna Hart, who's a resident. Like to come down, madam, and take the seat there. There you go. Well, the rules apply again. You have 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Please speak clearly into the microphone in your own time. Thank you.
Everybody. Good morning, everybody. South Willingham is so quiet. ITV produced a programme in 1992 about the village where nothing happens. This and the outstanding beauty and tranquility of the surrounding countryside is the reason the landscape was protected from harmful development and why people and wildlife choose to live in or visit the area. Directly at the proposed site entrance, the vast panoramic views are breathtaking, across the Witham Valley to Lincoln Cathedral and north across designated farmland to Hainton Strait. The application and additional reports cannot be relied upon by the committee to make a decision as they are full of inaccuracies. The proposed route from Caister High Street and Donington Road will not be used regardless of signage, as sat-navs direct traffic via the 4 narrow lanes serving the village and through the village centre, each lane having various pinch points where only one vehicle can pass at a time. The Lindsay Trail, promoted by Lincolnshire County Council as quiet and suitable for walkers, cyclists, horse riders, carriage drivers and disabled vehicle users, traverse the village on 3 of the lanes, including Donington Road. The applicant's agreement to have passing places close to the junction of Station Road with Donington Road proves his acceptance that traffic will cut through the village. The claim that verge damage is close to the village is untrue. It extends the full length of Donington Road and will be exacerbated by the huge increase in traffic. The LVIA claim that there will be no significant harm to the landscape is untrue. This is a new modern building, infrastructure and associated car parking for 200 cars in open countryside covering nearly 100 acres, directly at odds with Natural England's objection and Lincolnshire Wolds Countryside Service comments. The planting of trees to hide the infrastructure will further impact on the fine views. The recommended lighting by Lincolnshire Police will impact the dark skies. The LVIA has taken no account of the impact of the development from Station Road or Panton Road. Louth Design Consultancy comments that this proposal ties in with the Lincolnshire Wolds Management Plan is also untrue. Policy ARTP1 aims to improve appropriate, quiet recreation. The development of a site which will attract hundreds of vehicle movements per day, up to 600 visitors at the weekend, is entirely inappropriate and will impact on the current quiet enjoyment of the village and use of the Lindsay Trail by vulnerable road users. This is an unlit lane with no pavement and no public transport.
You have 30 seconds left, madam. Thank you.
In conclusion, I emphasise the objection of South Willingham Parish Council and the majority of South Willingham residents, the objection of both Natural England and the British Horse Society, the grave concerns from Lincolnshire Wolds Countryside Service and other statutory consultees, including Sport England and Active Lincolnshire, who have concerns there is no sustainable travel to the site and who all agree this is simply the wrong development in the wrong place. Refusal should be the conclusion of the committee due to ELDC policy SP23.
Your time's up, madam. Thank you.
Planning policy framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you take a seat at the back there,
Of course.
please?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Shirley Asquith, who is clerk to South Willingham Parish Council. Hello and welcome. Same rules apply. You have 3 minutes to address the committee and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. If you speak clearly into the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. After polling residents, South Willingham Parish Council is supporting their overwhelming objection to this planning application. Imagine you have just heard that a development of around 100 acres generating 100 visitors per day, rising to 300 at weekends and 600 on monthly special events days, open all year round from dawn till dusk, is being planned within half a mile of your village. How would you feel? You know that many of these car journeys will pass your front door to access the site from the southwest and southwest, through the narrow lanes of the village, usually peopled by dog walkers, local cyclists and horse riders, which the bus, local agricultural vehicles and delivery vans often struggle to negotiate as it is. In spite of the applicant's claim that traffic will be directed around the main roads, you know this to be little more than wishful thinking, because sat-navs will take the direct route through South Willingham village. Highways have proposed a series of unsightly passing places with attendant signage on one of the attractive lanes in the village in anticipation of the traffic problems the site will generate, and the car sharing figures quoted seem to be little more than aspirational. ELDC itself promotes the very access route to this site as a quiet lane for walkers, cyclists, horse riders and carriage drivers as part of the Lindsay Trail. The on-site cafe with free parking for 200 could attract even more cars and is an ideal meeting point for the motorbikes which currently use nearby Willingham Woods Cafe and often has police presence to maintain road safety. As all residents know, traffic speeds up the Caister High Street, particularly motorbikes, making the turnings out of the local villages quite dangerous. Additional traffic at the Donington Road junction can do nothing to improve this situation. And there is no evidence that this facility will improve the fitness levels of the population of Lincolnshire, as is claimed. And far from the claim that ecology and biodiversity will be significantly enhanced at this major development in an area of outstanding natural beauty, it's hard to see how vehicle movements, exhaust pollution, noise from users, ongoing track maintenance, and the need for security lighting at night can be anything but disruptive to wildlife. This quiet, undisturbed valley is home to loads of wildlife, including red kite and sand martins. Development here is yet another encroachment on diminishing wildlife habitats nationally. You want to ask, what is the point of being in an AONB if it can't be protected? Despite the LVIA assessment stating that there is capacity to absorb the proposed development at this location, it will be clearly seen from both Station Road and Panton Road. As locals, we feel that the tranquility and beauty of the Wolds are more than enough of a reason to be living here or for people to visit.
You have 30 seconds left, madam. Thank you.
This development will do nothing to enhance the free enjoyment of the environment on foot, bike or horse. You need to protect this special resource. This is a destination for profit enterprise situated too far from centres of population to link with any sustainable travel schemes. You have to drive here.
Thank you. Would you take a seat along with your colleagues there, please? Thank you. The Final speaker is Councillor Richard Fry, who is the local member. Richard, would you like to come down, please? Now, Richard, as you know, you have 5 minutes as a local member, but then again, we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left, please, in your own time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members of the committee, good morning. Excuse me. I have the privilege of being the elected ward member for South Willingham, indeed since 2015, and I've come to know the village and residents well. They are well aware that the proposed development fits with the desire of government to promote environmentally appropriate lifestyles and pursuits amongst its citizens, and that therefore planning will be predisposed towards granting approval of it. They are aware that the officer report as regards the project proposes approval, and that the NPPF has a presumption for approval embodied within it. However, the residents of South Willingham have genuine and serious misgivings about the application, which committee need to give significant weight to in the decision-making process. I would ask that whether members of planning committee have studied and taken note of the objections raised by consultees, particularly Natural England and the Lincolnshire Wolds Countryside Service. Your determination is all that stands between the residents of South Willingham and their environment, and having their lives blighted and the environment by the unintended consequences of this project for the foreseeable future. The material planning consideration terms, there can be no doubt that the following issues will negatively impact the community. The significantly increased traffic generation, access and highway safety, noise and disturbance, disturbance from smells, loss of ecological habitat, and the overbearing nature of the proposal. That these matters are very real is confirmed in the report by reference to the expected routing of traffic via Caister High Street and the Donington Road, whilst quite clearly there can be no doubt that satellite navigation systems, as other speakers have said, will take the majority of traffic from a westerly quadrant through the village, South Willingham. The proposed mitigation for the narrow and dangerous nature of the village lanes is indicated by the inclusion of passing places proposed as a solution that confirm the very real nature of the highway safety issue. I feel the need to emphasise previous speakers' statements that EOD itself has independently promoted the access route to the site as a quiet lane for walkers, cyclists, horse riders and carriage drivers as part of the Lindsay Loop Trail. As regards noise and disturbance, residents are aware that the proposed track will be lit and will require routine, regular maintenance, which will involve siting substrate material at strategic locations around the track, which will be used to repair the surface and will be compacted using so-called whacker plates. There is no specific consideration identified for noxious exhaust fumes. However, there can be no doubt that increased traffic equals increased levels of atmospheric pollution. It is also abundantly clear that construction and subsequent maintenance of the proposed cycle track will disrupt ecological habitats for the area of outstanding natural beauty and result in a significant loss of habitat. Finally, I refer to the overbearing nature of the proposal. The application address is given as land off Donington Road, South Willingham, so it is clear that the project and the community are directly linked by the applicant. Further to this, the application references 100 routine vehicle movements per day, rising to 300 on the weekend and 600 on event days. So on event days, conservatively, 1,200 people could be descending on the project site. Compare this with the local resident population of 160, and the overbearing nature of the proposal is clear. This, coupled with the fact that the development plan covers around 100 acres of the area of outstanding natural beauty, is open all year round from dawn to dusk and is lit and within half a mile of the village. Chairman and committee members, you will have noticed in the concluding sentences of the officer report that the objections by Natural England and Lincolnshire Wolds Countryside Service, together with those of local residents, are summarily discounted in the planning balance. So I repeat, you are all that stand between the residents of South Willingham and the blight that we've generated by approval of this application with its undeniably unacceptable negative aspects. These are our residents, it is our environment. So if you cannot hand on heart state that they will not be detrimentally affected, I must request that you reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Richard, would you remain seated? Now is an opportunity, colleagues, for you to ask questions of our four speakers. Can I ask the committee clerk, is that microphone on that table there, is it live?
That's it. Now if you press it, it's gone white. Press it now.
But it just says people moving about. That was the only reason I was thinking.
Oh, yes. We need to turn that. That's it. Yeah.
Right, okay. Right, so first of all then, if you want to ask questions of our speakers, would you identify the individual you want to speak to? If it's Councillor Fry, he's sat there, obviously he's got the microphone to himself. Otherwise, the three speakers, if they were to pass it along, save a lot of toing and froing. Okay, who wants to have open first of all? Matthews.
Just a question for the applicant. Are you linking in any way with the Lindsay trail? Sorry.
I'm aware at the moment that conversations have had being had with Sustrans independently of us to try and make it an approved cycle route so that you could actually reach it without having to take public transport. But as the local residents have already noted, that road is already suitable for cyclists. So in many ways, you might argue that it is already on a national cycle route. It's just not recognised as such by Sustrans.
Right, anybody else? Right, Councillor Ayer.
Excuse me. I wonder if I could ask the applicant, has he considered any other alternatives? I realise you've got to diversify nowadays to stay ahead of the game, but had you not thought of a solar farm or something of that sort?
We're always looking at good ways to diversify, but I mean this really fitted with the whole ethos of the estate because it's low impact, it's green, it promotes healthy living. Solar farms have a place, perhaps, but they're not for us and not on the AONB. This seemed to tick every box that we wanted it to tick, hence why we've pushed ahead with this.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, did you want to ask a question of our speakers? Neil, microphone, thanks.
Sorry. We've got 100, he said there's 160 residents, but we have 179 for this application. We have 213 against. I just wondered where these figures come in.
They come from I think it was the 2012 census, but there is a more recent indication that indicates 170. I'm not sure, it's a bit like Binbrook really. We've got a core of the village has a certain population and there's quite a lot of people who live around it, but I'm talking about the core of the village, and that's the number of people that were indicated when I referenced it on Google.
Yeah, I can understand that, but is there 179 residents in South Willingham that are happy to support this application? Because you said it was 160 and there's 179 happy to support it. So where are they in South Willingham or are they somewhere else? Because that's what we're arguing about, South Willingham.
Well, the indications I have that many of the supporters are external. They're regional rather than local. There are local supporters. There's not a vast number.
I just interjected that, but
yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Jones, as you'll be aware, obviously, when we go out to consultation, the comments that we receive can come from any source. So, the number that we've got there as listed in the report is the number of comments that we've received. So we don't necessarily go into if you're a resident from that immediate locality, then that's fine, and everybody else we discard. We have to take into account all comments that are received. So to try and draw a direct correlation is a bit difficult to do.
Okay, right. Any more questions? Councillor Cunnington.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First one for Councillor Fry. You tried to use a negative impact on the carbon from the cars coming to the site. Surely local people within a short radius using this site would be better off going to this site than travelling from, let's say, Skegness right across towards Rutland Water or somewhere like that for travelling. Surely the carbon impact of travelling from Skegness or the surrounding area within a short radius is better than doing a 100-mile journey to get the same benefits.
I didn't speak about the carbon impact. I spoke about the increased number of vehicles that will pass through the village and the fact that they will push out exhaust fumes and that the villagers are being negatively impacted by those exhaust fumes. So it wasn't about the carbon footprint, it was about the negative impact of vehicle exhaust if you've got a lot more vehicles travelling through a small village.
Which in turn is the same principle. It's the it's the emissions and the fuel emissions, should we say. I'll correct my wording. Is it not better to have fuel emissions over a shorter journey, like a 20-mile radius of the site, rather than pushing them towards a 50 to 100 miles radius of a different site to have the same benefit?
Understanding the question, really. I spoke about the probability that sat-nav systems would take vehicles who wanted to come to the site through the village, but I spoke about the quadrant to the west only. I didn't speak about the distance that people might be travelling to get there. I'm not quite sure what the inference is. I apologise, but I'm not.
Right. Anybody else want to ask questions of our speakers? One more, then Councillor Matthews. Councillor Cunnington, please.
Thank you. Yeah, this one's to the applicant. I'd just like to know, really, have you gone out your way to the best of your ability to make sure that your centre that you're producing is as environmentally friendly as possible and to suit the area in its best possible nature and design?
We certainly feel we have. The visitor centre will be really efficient. It's going to have, it's going to be green. It's going to have a green roof, rainwater attenuation. It's wooden clad. It's going to be low level, so it's not visible. Yeah, hand on heart, we feel we've done everything we can to make this a renewable and eco-friendly, highly efficient visitor centre.
Councillor Matthews.
Councillor Fry, you didn't mention anything in your statement about the possible economic benefits to the area. It could create 10 jobs. Have you got anything to say about that?
No, I didn't really mention that. I accept the fact that it's creating that employment. I was just talking about the planning balance, that we're saying that the objections of the people who look after or are tasked with pursuing the objectives of the area of outstanding natural beauty and the Wolds area are objecting, the residents are objecting, and we're sort of saying that actually the economics of this outweighs that, and I don't think it does. Thank you.
Councillor Eyre.
Could I ask our parish clerk, please, or your parish clerk, do you have street lights in South Willingham? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very wise. Thank you.
Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Chairman. I look at the objections and I can't really see how many are relevant material planning considerations.
I would advise, Councillor, it needs to be a question rather than an observation. I think that's correct. Please.
I haven't finished. This happens time and time again. You know very well I suffer from aphasia.
Well, if you
so
could
I'm slow,
it would be appreciated.
I'm slow. My question is to Councillor Fry, have you looked at all these representations of objections, and do you really think that most of them are relevant material planning considerations?
Yes, indeed, I have. We've been working for this for about 18 months now, and these objections have been coming in over a long period of time, and there have been 2 phases of it, and I've read through them quite routinely. I've also discussed the matter with Lindsay Stewart, the planning officer, and she did actually indicate to me that the regional ones would be filtered out. That hasn't apparently happened. They're just all included as well. I think largely the concerns of the villagers certainly are around material planning considerations, and they are about traffic generation and the risks to their village of all this unwanted movement of vehicles, and indeed probably the track itself, in the sense that there are very significant risks to the area of outstanding natural beauty. The Wolds environment are represented by the construction and operation of the track. So I think they're both very material planning considerations, and I think they need to be considered.
Yes, Councillor Aldridge.
Councillor Frey, do you have any evidence to support that, or is it hypothetical?
It isn't. I mean, the traffic movements are there. The layout of the track and the location of the track, the environment is there to be seen. You can see it's in the AONB, and I am aware that a similar application was refused by North East Lincolnshire Council just recently on the basis that it was a major, and this hasn't been designated by this council as a major application, and yet it was by that council. Now, I know you can't compare all councils, but the point is that the considerations and the concerns of the people who have objected to this are very real, and there's a lot of evidence supporting them.
Thank you. Right now, if there's no more questions, we'll go into the debate. So are there any more questions of our speakers? No? Okay. Councillor Fry, would you return to the members' lounge, please? And the other three speakers, would you go back to the public gallery, please, if you'd be so kind? Thank you. And we'll kick off. Right, our speakers are back in the public gallery, so I'll open the debate now. Who would like to open the batting, so to speak? Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. I think what an amazing opportunity this is to allow the Wolds to be open to more people, for more people to be able to enjoy them, to experience them, and perhaps attract a different demographic that particularly wouldn't get the chance to go and see what's out there, because as rightly pointed out, these are beautiful places. From what I can see, the disruption looks, in terms of the actual development itself, it looks pretty well contained. It's a little track going through a nice field. You know, it's not like there's motorbikes going to be whizzing around. These are cycles. You know, it's a push bike going around a track. I really can't see how that's going to make the Wolds look like a disgusting place that no one wants to look at anymore. I think it'll look fantastic. I couldn't think of much better than to see 100 cyclists bouncing around this track as you walk along or cycle along the road. It's a new use of the space that you know, is moving forward with the future, that will help the local economy. And whilst I do understand that residents will have concerns, I think to say that, you know, any development can't happen because you want to enjoy them to yourself, I don't think you can sit there and say that. I think you've got to let everyone have a little piece of the Wolds that we all love.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
I do agree with some of the residents of South Willingham. It will have an impact. But actually, you know, areas of natural beauty are working places, and they should be enjoyed by all. And I think this development is low impact. It is going to create jobs. It's a unique development. It opens the countryside up to other people, and it's incredibly beautiful. And I think, you know, we should be supporting projects like this, and I'd like to move for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Cunnington, followed by Councillor Aldridge.
Yeah, I think it's all been said already. I'll second Councillor Matthews.
Councillor Aldridge.
I was just about to say the same, Chairman, so I support it.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Ali.
Thank you, Chair. Just a bit of a query on the traffic signals at all. I know some places that when they put the brown signs up and stuff, it does say on the Megnor sat nav. I wonder if that's the sort of thing that could be put on, or whether you can just pass that on to highways to sort of make sure it's incorporated on.
Yeah, Angela.
Well, I'm sure the case officer can add it as a note, as a memo to the Highways Authority, because you do see it in some of the more tourism type places. So it could be a note that's passed on by Mr. Booth.
Okay. Are there any more speakers? Now, it's been moved and seconded that the application is approved subject to the following conditions, which is contained within your report. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour, please show.
That's 9, Chairman.
Any against?
None against, Chairman, so abstentions now.
Right,
One,
that's been approved.
2,
Thank you.
3.
Thank you. Right, we now move on to item 6, which relates to land at Ludborough Road, North Thoresby.
Do you want to see if any of the public are staying or they?
Beg your pardon?
Do you want to see if any of the public want to stay or they?
Do the members of the public wish to stay for the remainder of these applications, or do you wish to leave? It's a matter for you. In this one, it's Andy, are you doing this one as well?
I'm doing this one.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'm doing all of that.
The lot, are you?
Yeah.
You're doing the lot?
It looks like it.
Oh, lot for punishment.
I think so.
Right. Are we, everybody ready? Booth, are you? Oh, sorry, yes, you just, okay, that's fine.
Right, thank you, Chairman. This is an application for 198 dwellings and construction of vehicle access, garages, etc. on land at Ludborough Road, North Thoresby. Members will recall it came to committee a few months ago and was deferred from that committee for review and negotiation in respect of civil issues. I think the report itemises what those were and the outcomes from that. The only other thing to add is to draw members' attention to the supplementary papers. Including on that was a representation from Councillor Smith, the local council, but I think Councillor Smith's actually going to take opportunity.
Can I just interject at that point? Councillor Smith is present, and when we come to the point of speakers, in discussions with myself, Councillor Smith has agreed to read his submission as printed, and then he'll be open for questions along with everybody else at that appropriate point. Okay? Could you continue, please?
Yep, thank you, Chairman. In addition to that, just to draw members' attention on the supplementary papers, we've had some additional representations since that deferral, raising a variety of issues and concerns. They're itemised on the paper. And update comments. One of the outstanding issues was in relation to affordable housing. That's been subject to ongoing negotiation discussions. The outcome of which is we now have agreement which the service manager the Council for Affordable and Accessible Homes is content with. So that provides an appropriate mix and tenure of affordable housing units within the site. The scheme has consequently been amended to that, but it doesn't change any of the fundamental layout principles for the scheme. It's simply delivery of the required housing as required by policy. Sport England was an outstanding issue. Concerns in relation to its relationship with the cricket facility to the north. You'll notice in the officer's recommendation is to ask for the delegated authority to continue discussions and detailed discussions in respect of potential mitigation should it be required on that, if it's required. Sport England spoke to them yesterday, they're content with that approach. And then the final matter, which was reason for deferral, was in relation to the issue of connectivity from the village, particularly with reference to the opportunity for needed improvements to the footway along Ludborough Road. I think it's accepted that there is a need for the improvements and delivery of footway on there. Last time it came to committee, there were a couple of options that were suggested. These are matters that the county council will ultimately have responsibility for delivering and require. We would need to secure them through a planning condition. But the work that's been undertaken has been about showing that it is possible to get a suitable link. The preferred link at the time of the presentation before was to the south side, a footway to the south side of Ludborough Road. Further discussions and meetings with some local members of the community indicated that notwithstanding any other concerns they'd got in relation to the scheme, their preference would be to explore possibility for a footway to the north. So that works in hand and been done. There is a draft, it's with the County Council, but I haven't, I'm afraid, had their final comment, other than to know that it looks like it is achievable to provide that link either side of the road. So as a matter of principle, it seems that that is possible, and I've included, just for reference really, that indicative plan, Appendix 1 to supplementary papers that shows the footway to the north side. But I say apologies, but I haven't been able to get a final response back from the county at the moment. So that's in terms of the updates. In terms of the presentation, if I can just go through and remind members, it's pretty much the same as before. That's the Google aerial photo. The square area is the site. North Thoresby lying, main part of the village obviously lying to the east and the northeast of it. Red line showing it again, clear, very sort of square area of land. The A16, sorry, to the east, and then Ludborough Road running on the south side. That's the layout plan. You'll notice just points of reference, significant buffer strip, woodland planting strip to the east. That was a requirement of the local plan policy for several reasons, but not least including relationship to the A16. The access to the site onto Ludborough Road here. And layout plan that shows the landscape context a little clearer. One of the outcomes from the negotiations has been to secure more street trees within the scheme. The general principles remain similar to or identical to those previously presented to committee, but we have achieved improvements to landscaping with street trees. And which just shows you the location for the affordable housing. So they're pretty much as they were in terms of general location. They're arranged in fairly small clusters. And as I said, mentioned earlier, they satisfy the requirements of the relevant policies and the advice we've received from officer support. So again, I'll run through these. Members have seen these before, and they're not all of the house type drawings, but they're given an indication of, but there are quite a few of them. So we'll just run through those briefly. There are a variety of house types, including now we have single bed units that are being provided to accommodate affordable housing need. So I'll run through them very, very briefly. They're fairly traditional in form and style. I'm sure you recall those anyway from the last presentation. And then just, again, hopefully, just a couple of street scenes that show what they would look like within the site. So hopefully give a better flavour of what the development would look like if constructed. And then hopefully this is helpful. There was some discussion by members last time, some concerns about density of development, grain of development. This plan is simply looking to show the urban grain. So the application site is this area here. The open space that I mentioned, the woodland area, sits to the left. So the A16 actually sits sort of in this generally in this location here. Ludborough Road would run down here, but this is just a plan that sort of shows the general urban grain, the form of developments in the village, shows sort of the built form, so you can get a flavour of the relationship between dwellings, and it's intended to sort of show, and you'll notice in the officer observations that as grain goes, it's not that dissimilar to some areas within the village already. So in terms of character considerations, which suggest it's not that discordant with the general form and character that's there. And then finally, that is just for reference, but as I say, the detail is not for consideration, but it's just to show the work that's been done in terms of exploring the idea of a footway link to the north side from the site along Ludborough Road. And this is the one that sort of responds to the suggestions from the local community to explore that possibility. But I just stress it's just there to show that it's work in progress, but the final thoughts, comments and opportunity for input from anyone else hasn't hasn't been received from the county yet. And that, again, just a reference, is the one that was to the south that members saw last time. Photos of the site, again, members seen these before, looking on Ludborough Road. On the site looking towards the village. The site sits on the right there behind the hedge. So that's looking out towards the A16. Again, through the hedge to the site. So you can see it's a sort of a very, very clear greenfield site at present, with some fairly strong boundary treatments to the certainly to the south and the east. Again, there with existing development over to that eastern side. And then I think that the only additional photos here, the reference that show the area on Ludborough Road where there would be a need to try and facilitate a footway. It is a narrow road, particularly here, and the markings, I think, are just indication of where it's been attempted to mark out what that might look like. But that's looking, the site sits up here. As you can see, it's narrow, and there's a need to provide footway link between the site to where the footway starts, closer to the village core. And that's sort of the pinch point within there, where there would be a need to try and accommodate a footway and necessary narrowing of the roadway, but in principle, it can be achieved. That's it. Thank you, Jim.
Is that it, Mr. Booth? Thank you. Right, colleagues, we have, on this occasion, we have 3 speakers. So the first speaker is Mr. Adrian Coy. Would you like to come down, please, sir? Mr. Kind. I beg your pardon, sir. Sorry, I made a mistake, haven't I?
Yeah, just,
Yeah,
it was the first one.
Yeah, sorry. Here comes Mr. Ibbotson. Could you come down, please? I do apologise for that, sir. If you'd like to come down.
Gentleman could just sit at the
Yeah,
back.
Mr. Ibbotson first. So sorry, it's my mistake. If you'd like to take the back there, thank you. And then, okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Ibbotson. So I think you've heard the rules of engagement, so to speak. You have 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. You speak clearly into the microphone in your own time, please, sir. Thank you.
In July, this application was deferred to allow for further consultation, specifically with the parish council and the local residents. We met the parish council and arranged a public consultation with local residents, which gave them the opportunity and a platform to express their views. At the consultation, we presented a redesigned layout which removed the terrace blocks on the eastern boundary. These have now been replaced by lower density detached dwellings. This eastern edge of the development has also been moved away from the boundary, in some cases as much as 6 metres. Generally, there is now a 33-metre spatial clearance between existing and new dwellings, which is considerably more than the existing dwellings enjoy with their neighbours across the road on Highfield Road. Density and urban grain were also discussed at the consultation. We produced an urban grain map, which shows the layout of the development is no different from the existing village grain of North Orsby. The density of development is 18 dwellings per hectare, which is below the recognised 30 dwellings, representing efficient use of land. But it does accord with the expectations of the local plan, requiring an average density of 19 dwellings per hectare for large villages. This is important, as in all forms of life, we should be as efficient as possible. If on allocated land we do not build efficiently, then we will not achieve the housing numbers required, which will in turn will devastate the local plan policies. We suggest not making efficient use of land is poor design and poor planning. Linkage was also discussed at length, and we are still providing a provision for footpath links to the high street to the north and to the school if required at a later date during the development. But both these parcels of land are outside of our control. The working group met with the Planning and Highways, and I believe it is widely accepted that footpaths is achievable along Ludborough Road, be it to the north or south side of the road. However, the final details of this will require an engineered design, which will be secured by a planning condition. This is standard planning policy. The housing officer supports our proposals, we achieved the identified need of 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom houses for North Thoresby, equating to 59 dwellings at 30% of the proposals. This application is fully compliant with the local plan and NPPF. It is on allocated site and supported by your Planning, Housing and Highways departments. It will provide much needed housing for North Thoresby, East Lindsey in a sustainable location. Helping to support the community and infrastructure of the village, we have held a public consultation and amended the layout where
You have
possible.
30 seconds left, please. Thank you.
And amended the layout where possible within the context of that required by the local plan, reducing the density of properties on the boundary, enhancing biodiversity and increasing the number of street trees on the development. We therefore request the committee approve the application in line with the planning officer's recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to move to the seat at the back, please? And now, Mr. Coy, would you like to come to the table? So I apologise again for getting the order in the wrong way. Okay. You, sir, have the same rule as everybody else. 3 minutes to address the committee, and we'll give you notice when you have 30 seconds left, please. Thank you in your own time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. After your July meeting, we had no contact with Sidon until they presented their proposals to residents on the 20th of October and answered some of our questions. Nothing changed after that meeting. It was a presentation, not a consultation. Concerns regarding the school, doctor's surgery, traffic levels, etc. remain and arise from the 198 houses proposed, significantly exceeding the 130 allocated to the site in the local plan and the 165 set for the whole village. These numbers were not maximums or minimums, but were indicative of the number ELDC determined this site could take. Transport and accessibility provision falls well short of your SP22 policy. Children living just 30 metres from their classroom on one corner of the estate will have to walk 3/4 of a mile to get to school rear entrance. Mums with toddlers at nursery will have to walk further. Elderly residents who want to pop to the shop for a bottle of milk will have to walk just under 2 miles on a round trip. There are no proposals for any cycling facilities, and there is only one bench on Ludborough Road where the infirm might take a rest. On a wet morning, cars will inevitably ferry children to school, exacerbating school gate congestion. This is a car-dependent development separated from and out of keeping with the rest of the village. The government is currently questioning whether such developments can be justified. In principle, we welcome a new safe footway on Ludborough Road. We are greatly concerned, though, that it will narrow the road over a significant distance, making deliveries and parking difficult for residents. The road is well used by farm vehicles and HGVs, and it is a bus route. A bus is 3 metres wide, including its wing mirrors. Drawing refers to a minimum road width of 5.3 metres, and that is too narrow for 2 buses to pass. So a 40-metre long one-way section is proposed, except they've made some alternative proposals overnight.
You have 30 seconds left,
The
please.
drawings don't show parking restrictions, which may be needed to prevent parked vehicles blocking the road. Any parking on the approach to the one-way section will extend it. This will make it difficult for drivers to judge when it is safe to progress, for visitors to find anywhere safe to park, and for residents to receive deliveries, including heat and oil. A bus or a lorry waiting at the give-way line will effectively block the road for any approaching bus, lorry, or farm vehicles. I'm willing to clarify the points I've made. As well as being a resident, I'm a chartered civil engineer.
You have your 3 minutes.
Can expand on some of the technical points.
Yeah, thank you. If you'd like to return to the seat behind you, please. Now we have Heather Howard. Thank you. I think you must have heard the rules now, but just I have to go through the procedure. 3 minutes to address the committee. We'll give you notice when you have 30 seconds left. If you speak clearly into the microphone in your own time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for the Parish Council. At the last meeting, I expressed a willingness to negotiate with the developer, but this has not happened. Sidon approached us to use the village hall to make a presentation, at which they explained the plans today, minus the late submissions made by Sidon yesterday on the portal. As a result of the concerns we expressed or the suggestions we made, this was not a public consultation. Whilst the Parish Council supported the 2018 settlement plan, we did not envisage 198 houses being built on a field designated for 130. This is a material increase of 52%. The 700 planned bedrooms will increase our current population by up to 70%. The stated density of 18 houses per hectare is misleading. If peripheral landscaping and the pond is ignored, the density of the housing is close to 30 per hectare. Despite the reference to Lincolnshire vernacular and other technical terms, we know instinctively that the proposal is out of keeping with the rest of the village. There has been no consultation on the housing needs of the village. The manager of affordable housing at ELDC felt unable to support the application, concerned that it did not meet the national ELDC planning policy. Mainly, like us, he feels some bungalows are needed. Again, 11th hour amendments were put on the portal yesterday, but not accompanied with a site plan to clarify the location of these newly added bungalows. The proposal amounts to a village backing onto our existing village with no integration or connectivity. It offers nothing to enhance our village life. The two potential footpath links shown on the north are unlikely to be built. The claimed discussion with the school amounted to an emailed request for a gate. There has been no discussion with the Academy Trust nor attempts to meet. The proposed path is a safeguarding issue for the school. The Parish Council shares the concerns Adrian has expressed about the proposed Ludborough Road footway and the distances residents of the estates will have to walk to schools or shops. The report refers to the concerns of Sport England, which has been alluded to by Mr. Booth. It's misleading as it implies the field is not used by adults. It's a very active cricket club competing in the First Division. Sport England have required a ball trajectory risk assessment and any issues resolved prior to planning approval. So we'd like to support this. It's a straightforward assessment and this has not been done. Again, this is a safeguarding issue.
You have 30 seconds left. Thank you.
As balls hit during matches may regularly go over the boundary. Our expressed concerns about overlooking hedgerows, village sewer systems, the overloaded treatment works, building levels, construction impacts have not been listened to or adequately addressed. We believe there's sufficient grounds to refuse this application and we urge you to do so. Once more, late submissions on the planning portal have made it impossible for us to reasonably assess this application in full. We accept the field will at some stage be developed and we are willing to work with a more amenable developer to find a way to integrate a more sympathetic proposal in our village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to go to a seat at the back, please, along with the other two gentlemen. Now, the local member is Councillor Phil Smith. If you'd like to come down, please. Now, just to make a point that if you look in your supplementary papers, you'll see that there was a submission by Councillor Smith in respect of this application on the understanding that he was able to attend. However, he's managed to do so. But in order to make sure that it's equitable to all people, Councillor Smith will read out his submission, which is contained within the supplementary papers, without any additions, subtractions or whatever. That does give him the opportunity, though, as it's here, that should you wish to question him on his contribution, he could do. He wouldn't have that opportunity if he wasn't here. So, as you know, you have 5 minutes to read out your submission, please, if you're Mr. Kind, and we'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left. Thank you.
As I will probably be unable to attend the committee meeting tomorrow, I am posting this brief recap of my position. Following this application coming up previously and being deferred, there has been no substantial change to allay any of the concerns of myself, the community, or the committee. Indeed, given some additional detail and communication with Sidon and LCC, further concerns have arisen. Deferral was suggested on a number of grounds, though the vote was taken solely on the detail of the proposed traffic calming scheme on Ludborough Road. This detail shows both the tenuous viability of this as a safe passing scheme and the extent of road narrowing the scheme requires on this already narrow road. Ludborough Road is so narrow that its residents have to pay extra to have their fuel delivered by a special small tanker, which can only just manoeuvre onto their properties. If the road is narrowed any further on the opposite side, these properties will no longer be able to have fuel deliveries at all. LCC's response that lots of people live on narrow roads is a callous disregard for the loss of established facility here. Children and adults travelling to the village centre and school from the new development will still have to repeatedly cross the road to have use of a footway. The proposed road layout is not a viable solution in terms of road traffic or the viability of these properties. There is still no access egress to the north or east side of the site, allowing ready movement to the village centre, as stipulated as necessary in the local plan. In communications with the school, it is clear that no dialogue was entered into with regards to allowing access from the site to the school for pupils, beyond a single request for the school to cede land to the development for general public access to the high street, a loss of land and security that the school cannot afford. The cynicism of this land grab is made worse by the fact that in failing to take the position of the school into account in our local plan, the development will encircle the school, giving the school no room to expand as the population of the village grows. In a public meeting with Sidon Homes, the developers repeatedly cast doubt on the local plan's guide figures for this development. The revised figures for the reduced sized site in particular, claiming this figure was arbitrary and plucked out of the air. While I recognise this figure is a guide and not an absolute, the disregard for the figure on the grounds that the developer could find no record of the way this was arrived at undermines the work and reputation of the local plan, the Planning Policy Committee and our officers. Further to this, they stated that ELDC's supplementary planning documents out with the local plan itself were irrelevant and non-binding, alongside their statements that once the development was built, ELDC, the school and highways would be forced by the reality of the estate to find and pay for solutions to any outstanding issues. And so there was no need for them to take responsibility for the issues that their estate throws up. It is irresponsible, cynical and opportunist. There is still no detail on the environmental and energy sustainability of this estate beyond minimum building regs, despite the hints that they might consider building more green homes. Given the concerns provided to our recent scrutiny on improving housing standards by our own enforcement officers around the difficulty and expense of retrofitting estates whose designs and specs change with building regs as the estate is built, some future-proofing of designs, features, layouts and specifications is desirable as a minimum for builds which are projected over a number of years. There is no provision for bungalows or the lifelong homes residents and this council's policies desire to be built, even when this would solve issues of overlooking. This estate needs access to the heart of the village other than by Ludborough Road, and the north access proposed in the local plan is both unavailable and insufficient. This application should be turned down on this basis. The number of houses allocated for the plot by the developers is way too high and needs to be in line with the figure given in the local plan once the A16 barrier is removed from the equation, in line with the density of the rest of the village.
30 seconds left, please. Thank you.
The current housing numbers should be rejected on these grounds. The traffic scheme on Ludborough Road is dangerous for both vehicles and pedestrians and leads to hardship for existing residents and potential inviability of their homes due to loss of access. Without serious reconsideration, redesign and recompense for loss of facilities, this proposal should be rejected. This is not a development in North Thoresby. It is an unmaintained, unintegrated development adjacent to it, a separate community. It brings nothing to the village and it does not allow the village to bring anything to it.
Thank you very much for your time. That's perfect. Can you just remain, please, Councillor Smith? Right, colleagues, you've had the speakers' opportunity to ask questions of them. Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it was the parish councillor. You mentioned something about a one-way system on Ludborough Road. It was like a vague comment, but is that part of the traffic plan?
Could you press the button, please, sir? Thank you. Red light's on, you're live. No.
No red light.
There it is now. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's green. Yes, so to overcome the problem with the width of the footpath narrowing the road, there is one section that is down to single width, and it extends on the design. I haven't seen the design that was presented last night. We haven't had a chance to look at that. But on the original design, there was a 40-metre section. That's half the length of the football field that would be single lane. The planning, the highways officer at Lincolnshire couldn't point to any similar scheme in any village that she was aware of, but she did indicate that there are some estates in Lincoln that have a similar arrangement. I've been and had a look at those, and they are where there are 2 rows of cars on a street with a single lane between, and there's a giveaway line saying you can't go until the road's clear, and that's what's proposed for the village.
Thank you. Any more questions, please? Councillor Jones?
Could I ask Mr. Ibbotson, please? There seems to be a lot of concern about these 2 footpaths and the fact that they're never ever going to be built. Can we have a reassurance from you that they will be built and they'll be part of the development?
Sorry, just to clarify, the 2 footpaths going north, i.e. the one to the school and the one to yeah. Sorry, we are within the plan showing those footpaths going to the boundaries of our site. The land to the high street element was in the plan application and was proposed that a footpath link to our development was there, but that wasn't secured by a planning condition, so it's outside our control there. And we will provide a footpath link through the development to the school if at any future time the school decides they would like a footpath there. I mean, once you've got children on site travelling to the school and governors change and people change within these groups, they might want to connect to the development, and we're providing the facility for it to happen if required. But it's if required.
Councillor Aldridge?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Nice to see you again, Mr. Robertson. As you know, I was at the meeting, but I didn't speak, which is very difficult for me to keep silent, but I didn't say anything. Can we just confirm that the number of houses is 198? Okay, and can you tell me how many houses are there in the village before this development?
Harry, could you turn your light on?
Oh, sorry.
Like, I haven't got that number to hand at the moment, sorry.
Okay, well, I can tell you there are about 500 dwellings at the moment, and you are proposing 198, which means 40% more houses in the village. Would you agree that's correct?
Microphone, please.
Sorry, I'm not doing quick, simple maths, but yes, if that's what you're telling me, that sounds correct. You've done the maths, Terry. So.
Okay, I'd like now to go to talk about the houses on the site. Would you not say that the buildings are out of character with others in the village?
No, I wouldn't. We're providing 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom properties, which is what is firstly required by the housing officer for affordable housing, but also is a range of mix of housing for all families, much needed housing for all families for the village of North Horsby and East Lindsey District Council.
Can I just interject at that point? Mr. Gilderslee's want to make a comment, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to remind all members that when we're questioning of speakers, please keep them factual and open questions and not leading questions towards a particular opinion. We just need to make sure that we are focusing on what's been said and then obviously the report that's before us, rather than trying to express our opinions or views through leading questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Have you got another question, Councillor Aldridge?
Yes, I have, Chairman. I disagree with Mr. Gildersleeves. I've lived in the area since 1986. I know North Thoresby very well. I'm the ward councillor, and that development is not represented in the rest of the village. Right. This is a very old village dating back to the Doomsday, and some of the properties show that.
Yeah,
but this is a development.
Yeah, Councillor Aldridge.
Listen, let me finish.
No, I'm exercising my chairman's prerogative here.
Yeah,
I know you.
I would like to tell you, I remind you that I suffer from aphasia.
Yes, well, I'm trying to be.
And if you are continually interrupting me, take it up.
Well, that is your prerogative.
It is my prerogative, and I will. I'm saying that the houses in the village at the moment are not represented by that development there.
You made that point very strongly, sir. Can I just let you catch your breath? Does anybody else want to say something while we're here? Councillor Cunnington, then you can come back, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cunnington.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple of questions to Councillor Smith, really. I'd like to know, because I don't know the area, the houses you're talking about on Ludborough Road that are going to be struggling, to say the least, for fuel deliveries. Can you tell us roughly how many there are, please?
It's difficult to say exactly how many will be directly affected. We've had a couple of householders approach me personally. I think it's difficult to describe the houses in North Thoresby as having a vernacular, because there's actually, it's a village and it's grown up over a long period of time. So there's a gradual accretion of different styles over different periods and so on. There's some bits that look like the 70s and there's some bits that look like the 1700s, and Ludborough Road is no different to that. So there are some very, very old properties and there are some relatively new sort of terraced properties along there. And there are some of those sort of properties that are sort of down little lanes, which themselves are quite narrow. But in order to get to the rear of these properties, where most people's oil supplies are, it almost invariably involves some sort of driveway, usually at right angles to the road and with a very severe, it hasn't got nice sweeping entrances to it, which is why the people in this road have to pay for these extra expensive deliveries from very small tankers. If they can't, they're going to be taking their fuel home in milk bottles if they can't get these small tankers. And these small tankers can only just cope with the width of the road at the moment. If we have, it would be really nice to have a pathway, to be perfectly frank, anyway, whether the development's built or not. But it would make those houses inviolable.
Thank you. Anybody else before I bring Councillor Aldridge back? Sorry, Councillor Cunnington, beg your pardon.
Yeah, I do have a second question. And this one's in relation to the school, please, Councillor Smith. We heard from one of the other speakers that, I think it's one of the other speakers, said that the school wouldn't be able to grow if this development goes ahead. Now, we're talking 197 homes, a full mixture of 1, 2, 3 and 4 bed homes. So some of these are going to be family homes with children. Number one, has the school got spare capacity at present that would actually accommodate these? And if not, where could the school, and again, this is wrong to actually enforce the school and county council or anyone else, but where would the school be moved to And where would these children, how far would they actually have to travel to school?
Thank you for that. I think it was me that mentioned this being able to expand. The point that the parish councillor made was about the security of a rear access. I mean, obviously, there are lots of schools that are boxed in the world. You know, often a school has a site with a playing field or whatever and housing all the way around it. We're unusual in North Thoresby, or lucky, that what we've got is a school that's got a big field behind it. So that school could expand. The school has currently expanded. It's got a nursery facility that takes up a bit at the front of the site. You know, it's expanded into some of its playing fields and things already. Hasn't got big playing fields at all. It's got a small area for the kids to circulate at breaks and things, but that's about it. Which you can probably just about see in that top corner on the map. When this site is built, the idea is that you know, the site is built right the way up to the school, and so it doesn't have any space to expand. The only way it could expand would be to build a two-storey building or something like that. You know, and the idea that we could possibly at some point force the hand of the school, because of the reality of the estate having already been built, to cede land to give access to the high street, or to the idea of just having a gate so that kids can come and go from the rear of the school hasn't been mooted at all. But the idea of forcing them to cede access to high street is just kind of odd, in my opinion, and as is the idea that we can just assume that a solution will be found to the roadway to the south, which we don't have plans for.
Now then, the lady there want to speak, so we're going to ask a question. Have you?
Yeah, the question was, has the school got capacity at present? And if so, how much capacity for children will it have?
Excuse me, Councillor Cunnington. I've been. Mr. Gildersleeve wants to give some advice here again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's difficult to put Councillor Smith on the spot in terms of whether the school has capacity or not. But you'll see from the representations that we've received on the application that the County Council Strategic Development Officer for Education has commented and has made a request of £1.2 million circa for contributions towards school places within the locality. And just to confirm, the breakdown of that 1.2 million is just shy of £500,000 towards primary, circa 660,000 towards secondary, and £128,000 towards sixth form. So where that leaves us in terms of, as you will well know as a committee, in terms of looking at whether or not there is an impact of a development on such facilities, to make that request, the Education Authority has to provide that information to us. So in terms of that particular point, the ask is, in this case, a financial one from the Education Authority, not a land or landlocking type comment that has been received.
Can I just point out, I think Heather wishes to speak, but can I point out that the way we conduct these meetings is that you are there to answer any questions which the committee poses to you. You can't take place as though you're part of the committee. I'd like to make that clear. Thank you. So are there any questions? Before I come back to you, Councillor Aldridge, are there any other questions? Councillor McNally.
Thank you, Chairman. Just another one for the parish, so I can just get it into my head. You said that you was happy with the first the local plan of 2018. That was 100. I just worked it out roughly. It's 132 homes, and I think it about 400 people. So you was quite happy for people to walk that distance on that specific one, or did you submit any comment? Did you submit any comments against that at that point, or are we just talking about the extra 70 houses? Because obviously the footpath wasn't mentioned before. is it just them 70 houses extra that footpath is you class as a necessity?
In 2018, the principle of 130 houses was accepted by the parish council. The finer detail hadn't been submitted, so we weren't aware of the connectivity or the actual implications of a building on the site and what that would involve. At the time, there was the opportunity for the connectivity through to High Street, but that hasn't been taken up. Would it be possible to answer the question on the schools?
No.
No.
Councillor McNally.
One last one to the applicant. It's a bit of a random one. The housing estate to the right hand side there. Has there been any thought about buying a house and knocking it down and putting a footpath in there?
It's difficult to understand that. It happened down Humpton Avenue in Grimsby, and I think there was local uproar where the house was taken down at the weekend, and it was described as a scene from Armageddon. It's difficult to, it's land that we don't control, so it's outside of our control. Sorry.
Now then, are there any other members wish to speak? Ask questions of our speakers here before I bring in Councillor Aldridge. Okay, right. Sorry, Councillor Jones.
Can I just ask Ms. or Mrs. Howard? I'm looking at the map. Basically, the school is there. There seems to be 3 fields, one each side of it, and one in the middle. Is it beyond rocket science when you've got 1.2 million towards it to put a gate in there?
It's not beyond rocket science. The proposal is to put a route through the school to create a connectivity to Highfield Road, because there's currently an 8-foot that links from Highfield Road through to the school. So the proposed path, from our understanding, was to put a path down the side of the school. So it was taking land from the school and creating a public footpath at the side of the school to the top of Highfield Road, where there's currently a footpath which links to the school.
That's it. Are there any other members wish to speak? Right, Councillor Aldridge, I know you've got some other questions. This is a polite request from myself. Will you please keep your questions succinct and to the point so we can then debate this matter? Because I'm sure all the participants want to have a resolution to this. Thank you. I'm looking forward to your cooperation.
Chairman, I always cooperate with you, as you well know. Okay, I can give you the planned admission number for the school. It is 105. 105, the PAN. So with this housing estate, you could have, I don't know, 400 new children.
Are you posting that to the developer, Councillor Aldridge?
Yes, yes. Because the developer, you have had no consultation with the school. You haven't asked them if they could cope. And have you thought about how children will go to school if they cannot go to North Thoresby?
That please. Terry,
It's always a difficult situation when we talk about schools and how many people are in the school. A successful school will naturally want 100% population in their school. That's what they do, and they will take people outside of North Thoresby to that school to make it at full capacity. I don't know what the numbers are of the amount of pupils in the school that are actually outside of North Thoresby village. But the education have asked us for £1.2 million contribution. That will provide facilities, future-proofing for the school. How that is done will be for the education department and the school to develop. In terms of creating a link to the school, we've proposed that we're happy to put a link gate to the school so people can access from our development to the school in a safe environment, if that's so desired by the school at a later stage, and that, you know, the financial element of it is a request by the education department. We're house builders, not school builders. It's the very nature of how developers contribute towards the infrastructure of the village.
Right, Councillor Aldridge, I'll allow you one more question, please. Listen.
No, listen. You cannot do that under the Constitution.
Would you confirm that, please, Angela?
Otherwise, I'll load them all together.
What I was going to say, just allow me to finish, please. I know you feel very strongly about this. I know you've got a lot of questions to ask. You've asked quite a few. None of your colleagues want to ask any more questions. You could bring those others points you want to make during the debate as to whether or not this application will be supported or not. So what I'm suggesting is, or asking you, if you ask one more question of our speakers, then we can go into debate, and any other points which you've not yet raised, bring out during the debate.
Yeah,
okay.
I will do.
Thank you.
I do think, though, Mr. Ibbotson should have discussed this with the school before the application was put in.
I'm being advised it.
I have one question.
Can I just draw some clarity to the committee, please? There's sort of some discussion sort of treating the school separately to the Education Authority. The Education Authority looks at the contributions, looks at land, looks at what supports school, and they've got a very complex sort of criteria, what they add. It's a formula they had, how many houses, how many children, and then they look at the capacity of the school. So you're looking at the school as an independent body when actually it's a local education authority which governs most of the funding to the school and makes the assessment on development. So I just have some hesitation treating the school as a separate entity when it comes to contributions and numbers and funding and land. It's the education authority who makes that complex formula and decision.
Okay.
Angela, with respect, I've told you what the planned admission number is 105. I was a head teacher in East Lindsey. I saw that school built. I know the site. Let me finish.
Look, colleagues, this is.
Do you want me to complain of discrimination? Because I have told you I am a bit slow in what I've got to say. This is
Councillor Aldridge, please.
No, this is the first time you have done that with me, Mr. Councillor McNally.
Look,
you do it at every meeting.
Look, colleagues. Now look, this is getting out of hand. This is unseemly, and it's not becoming of this committee. Now you've had a full exchange here with Councillor Aldridge, and what I'm going to do now is, unless anyone brings something to the point which has not been discussed, I'm going to move on to the debate, and then you've got another chance. So if there's nothing else to do to ask these questions, could I ask the Councillor Smith to go to the members' lounge, please, and the three speakers to return to the public gallery? Thank you. Right. Yeah, okay.
The debate.
I beg your pardon?
Let's get on with the debate.
We are going to. Once the public's back in the public gallery, then we can have a spirited debate. It's too near Christmas for any bad feeling, okay? Right. Okay, who is going to open the batting? Councillor Matthews.
Can I just ask a question to Mr. Booth? I know that in the conditions, we've conditioned the footpath on the Loughborough Road. And obviously we can't condition anything not within the developer's control. Can we put a recommendation that we highly recommend a footpath when possible, to be built at the North End?
You, Chairman. Clearly, the issue of the footpath and the opportunity for connectivity to the village other than just along Lubber Road is clearly desirable. It's proved a challenge and it is difficult, but the idea of trying to secure best endeavours or asking the developer to commit to best endeavours to try and achieve that and probably embody that in the legal agreement, that would be a way forward. Yes.
Okay. Councillor McNally, followed by Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Chairman. I think one of the reservations I have is the actual. I get them wanting footpath. I absolutely do, but looking at the size of the road and the width, I wonder if sometimes you ask for something that actually you end up with. I suppose really it's down to highways to sort of do that, but that I think that's one of my big concerns here, that actually you could put something in that actually you don't really like.
Okay. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move to approve, please.
Is that seconded? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I will certainly second that proposal. I mean, there has been an awful lot of work, as you can see, with this file from Mr. Booth and the developers. I wasn't aware that 1.2 million was going to be allocated towards the education, which will obviously be a link. They've spent over backwards to keep this cricket club alive, and I get the feeling that these developers are actually just trying to help. The parish council approved 132. We now want 198. We're talking about 60 more dwellings, 62 more dwellings, and I can't see any planning proposals that why we shouldn't go ahead with this application. So I certainly second Councillor Dennis.
Right, it's been proposed and seconded for approval in accordance with. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor Matthews.
Just within the approval, can we have the highly recommend footpath being built at the North End within the conditions? I know we can't condition it, but could we do a recommendation of some sort?
Gildersleeve, thank you.
Through yourself, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Matthews, it's not something we can put in the conditions. However, we have got a legal agreement in this instance. We are seeking delegated authority. So if the resolution was from members for us to incorporate a reasonable endeavours clause for a set period of time, that's something we can iron out the precise wording of that in line with the developer as part of the legal agreement. It isn't uncommon. It gives that flexibility that, you know, using reasonable endeavours. It doesn't say there will be one at some point in time. Schools can be very difficult. Educational authorities have their security, all that sort of stuff that they need to consider. But I think in this case, we can suggest that it's a reasonable conclusion, and to use reasonable endeavours would be an appropriate response. Obviously, that needs to be picked up by the proposer and the seconder to amend the resolution. So I guess it's over to Councillor Dennis and Councillor Jones if they want that included.
Right, one more comment, Councillor Aldridge, please. Then we'll move to the vote.
I propose.
Okay, that's fine.
But you did say have no report from highways, and that is a critical report. I haven't got that report. Oh, there's a problem over drainage.
Well, we have to, as you know, we have to look at the. Well, exactly.
The drainage. The original report of Anglian Water was for 130 properties. This is now 195. That's ridiculous.
Well, all I can see.
I can tell you now from my own experience, North Thoresby floods.
Right.
Floods.
Then can I respectfully suggest then, because you've got your reservations, no doubt you will vote against the motion to approve, no doubt, which is your absolute right.
Yeah. And I also, Chairman, say that I spoke to the medical centres today, They are 10,000 people already, and the medical centres cannot cope.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Yes, sorry.
Just get some clarity from Andy on the drainage.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, if I can just offer a brief comment on a couple of those points. Firstly, the Highway Authority has raised no objection to the development in principle. There is the issue about the footway link along Ludborough Road. The Highway Authority position is that that would be a desirable provision, except it's difficult, except it has consequences in terms of narrowing the road. But there is a condition that would look to secure that, the finer details still to be sorted, but it could respond to the community's expressed desire to try and achieve that on the north side if possible. In terms of drainage, again, we have no objection, suggested objection to the idea of satisfactory drainage not being achieved on here. And again, there's a condition that's being recommended that would secure the finer detail of that. The only other point I'd just like to mention, draw members' attention to in relation to the opportunity for footpath connection to the north, is the scheme detail does provide for possible connectivity to the north at this point here. So it takes a footway up to the site boundary. Should land to the north here come forward for development and we get the opportunity to secure a missing bit of footpath connection, footway connection to the north. Appreciate it's not the most direct route, but it is another opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, I'm going to take the vote now, Councillor Aldridge. No, I am. I'm chairman and I'm taking the vote.
Right. Well, I just want to say, would these councillors like to have a 40% increase in the
Angela
parishes that they represent? Mr. Councillor Jones, would you be happy with that? No.
Look, this is getting out of hand.
It's getting out of hand because
It's
this
my job to keep it under control.
should never be approved.
Well, that's your, Angela.
Right, just to evaluate, so everyone knows what we've got on the table and what we're voting for.
Exactly.
We've had it moved by Councillor Dennis, seconded by Councillor Jones, and that is in line with the officer recommendation, which is delegating the authority to the case officer. And part of that is what Councillor Matthews was talking about the best endeavours into the legal agreement about the footpath. I just need confirmation from Councillor Dennis and Councillor Jones that you're agreeable to that.
Yes.
Thank you. Also on the table, that we've had a motion from Councillor Aldridge for refusal. There's no seconder for that at the moment, and I would be asking for more reasons for refusal, sort of balanced material planning consideration for refusal. But currently, there's only that movement for refusal, so we would move to the vote for officer recommendation.
In the absence of a seconder for Councillor Aldridge, I only have one proposal in front of me, which is for approval in accordance with the officer recommendations. Those in favour, please show. Those against?
7. Hang on, councillors. That's 7 and against 1, 2, 3. And abstentions 1, 2.
Is that?
That's passed, yeah.
That's carried.
Yes.
Right, colleagues, I think we'll have a 5-minute comfort break now. Thank you. Right. What? I ought to throw a sickie.
application by way of a planning condition with certain restrictive occupancy dates satisfies the relevant policies for the 3 areas of differing flood zones within the site. The Environment Agency supports the application based on these occupancy restrictions. The flood risk assessment confirms that surface water runoff can be adequately accommodated in the lakes with overflow into the board-maintained watercourse. Anglian Water confirms there is adequate capacity for the proposals to discharge foul water into their asset in the main road. Lindsey Marsh Drainage Board has also been consulted and gives informal approval to discharge all of the foul and some surface water as required into their maintained Sturbeck drain, which runs along the back of the site. A planning condition can address this element, and with this, the relevant planning policies have been met. Policy's requirement for safe, separate access for vehicles and pedestrians is satisfied by the widening vehicular entrance and separate pedestrian access. The traffic assessment has individually addressed all the concerns and objections, and the Highways Authority support the application. The plans include a tactile paving dropped curb crossing point for pedestrians. This provides easy access to the footpath on the opposite side of the road and a route to other village venues in both directions and bus stops. This satisfies Policy 22. The Council has deemed that the development will not result in any significant effects on the environment. The retention of the mature hedge, the trees, and additionally the dwelling also minimalises visual impact of the development of all
You have 30 seconds left, please. Thank you.
This reflects Policy 24 and other mentioned policies. The local plan states, sustainable development importantly ensures that our economy, both rural and urban, is encouraged to grow and flourish. These proposals can therefore deliver a quality and sustainable development which can benefit this village and surrounding areas, and which complies with both local and national planning policy. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. If you return to a seat behind you, and I'm now looking for David Whitehouse. If you'd like to come down, please, sir. Thank you. Now, David is chairman of Maltby Marsh Parish Council, incidentally. Thank you, sir. If you'd like to take a seat there. And I think you've seen enough now to know that you've got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're entitled to 3 minutes, and we'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left. Sorry?
Beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in, as much as I know this gentleman, I view him as a friend. He may not reciprocate, but
I don't blame him.
I wasn't aware he was speaking.
Okay.
Am I to go, Andrew, or stay? Or
You sort of clarified that it's friendship, and obviously the perception from the public, whether you've had discussions or not, it's whether you feel.
I'll stay where I am and judge whether I vote or not.
So you've had no discussions at all. No.
I've just had a word with him about his health and welfare, but not about this, I don't think.
Okay.
Councillor Matthews.
The same. I haven't discussed anything about this development.
Okay.
Anyway, Mr. Whitehouse, if you care to make your presentation, please. Yeah, it's on.
Maltby Marsh is a small village with fewer and fewer facilities. The garage and petrol station have closed, and Oam Lakes has stopped selling newspapers. Contrary to the applicant's statement, the one pub does not serve food, nor have Eastfield plants any intention of opening a tea shop in the near future. Whilst the village has few facilities, it does have a surfeit of caravans. There are large sites at Grange Farm and the Willows with 200. In addition, the very large site at Grange Farm Leisure is less than a mile away. There are also sites at Oam Lakes and the stables, and planning permission has been granted for 32 vans at School Farm. Village residents feel enough is enough, and over 40 letters of objection demonstrate this. These concerns also relate to the sewerage system. This is an antiquated vacuum system, suffering many blockages each year, despite Anglian Water pumping out chambers on a monthly basis. Most problems occur in the vicinity of the proposed site, being the lowest point of the system. The vacuum manager of AWA has said the system is not fit for purpose. A further 300 or more people using it will only make matters worse. The road visibility from Mablethorpe is poor, the site entrance being after a blind bend and high roadside hedge. Residents crossing the road here to the only pavement will do so at their peril. Very little traffic observes the speed limit. The applicant's transport statement suggests residents walk on the carriageway to Mablethorpe, as there is no footpath from the village. Medical services would also be compromised. There is no dentist in Mablethorpe, and the medical centre is already under severe pressure. For these reasons, the parish council and residents of Maltville Marsh ask that the application be refused. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now, if you just remain there, please.
Right.
Now then, normally, as I say, Councillor Harrison is a local member, would be attending, but unfortunately she tested positive for COVID. So she sent me a written submission, which I will read out as I have it here. And then once I've done that, that's consistent with speakers. And then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions of our two speakers who are present. Okay. So this is what Councillor Harrison has written, and I'm reading it out on her behalf without any additions or amendments. I'm writing in support of the residents and council taxpayers of the village of Maltville Marsh in their strong objection to this application. Many reasons for the objections have been listed within the officer report, but I wish to focus on the serious and long-lasting impact on the village and residents should it be approved. I can, together with other developments in the village, will cause unacceptable harm to the community, both to their safety and. I do not agree with the high report about the level of traffic through the village. I know it very well as I use it at many different times of the year. The A1104 is the main access route to Mablethorpe, carrying tourist, local and service traffic from Louth and Alford and beyond. It is used by the heavy service traffic for tourism sites and all supermarkets in Mablethorpe. The village already has tourism sites, which include one with 26 units, one with 5 and another with 6 lodges, all of which have ponds. A further site for 32 tourists and ponds is also currently being established. These sites are situated within one small section of the village at the end nearest to Mablethorpe and have already substantially increased the traffic. To add to this, there will be traffic moving through the village from residents of the Willow site, which has 200 static vans, and even more importantly, Grange Leisure, just a short distance beyond the Willows on the A1104 to Mablethorpe, which currently has 500 statics and a space for 100 touring vans. Adjacent to that is the Aqua Park, which of course has many visitors. As previously stated, they would be accessing these sites via the village. The village population in 2011 was 342 and is still below 400. Using a figure of 2 persons per unit, the village population would rise by at least 150 residents, all in a village with currently just a pub and a restaurant. It really has reached saturation point. If this application is approved, there would be an unacceptable impact on all residents in the village, and particularly those close to this site and the school farm sites during a lengthy construction phase. There would be 85 large, long loader lorries transporting the caravans together with all the construction traffic to dig the ponds and build the internal roads and other services. Following the development stage, there would also undoubtedly be a substantial increase in traffic movements through the village, both towing caravans moving in and out of this site, together with visitors to and from static sites wishing to explore the area. I emphatically disagree with the officer's comment in section 7.35 that it is not considered to be of the extent that it would significantly harm the amenities of existing residents. The vehicles would be turning across the road in front of houses opposite, and the residents will experience noise and intrusion, together with the potential danger to other road users being held up by larger vehicles blocking the road while turning. Regardless of the fact that there is a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit through the village, this would undoubtedly lead to road safety issues. I hope that the committee will recognise that on this occasion, economic viability considerations should not be more important than the future daily lives of the village community. And that, colleagues, I've read that out exactly as it's printed. Councillor Harris is not here to answer any questions, but our two previous speakers are. So, who would like to ask any questions of our two speakers? Councillor Jones?
Yes, can I call you Bella? Two things, and I think you answered the first one. We saw a lot of hedges and trees. Will that be retained?
Oh, sorry, you
Oh,
press the button, it comes on.
Is that on now?
Yeah, it's a bit antiquated, the system, but we get used to it.
No problem. The wildlife report does have a landscape strategy in it, which retains all the hedgerows as they stand now, and it gives a recommendation for how they're cut and when they're cut. So you would never cut down, for instance, a whole third of the height of the hedge. That would occur over 3 years. There is also recommendations that we keep a 15-metre spread from the roots from the mature trees as well. So it's quite an extensive wildlife and report in there that recommends that we keep all those hedges, and they will both retain all the wildlife that we've got, and they also screen all the caravans from the 3 sites as well.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have you got another one? Could you
Yeah,
turn?
please. And it's a bit about the sewerage, really. Would the sewerage for this site go actually into the mains, or would it be a self-contained cesspit or something like that?
Originally, it was all going to go into the Anglian Water sewer. That's how we originally proposed it. We recognise some people have mentioned about the sewer capacity, but Anglian Water are completely happy with the capacity as it is. However, we have also consulted with Lindsey Marsh Drainage Board, and they say that if we want to, we can take all the foul sewerage and some of the surface water sewerage into their drain at the back. So we would have biotech systems, sewage treatment plants on site, and actually the lie of the land goes towards the back of the site anyway. But we could get, say, the first 16 by gravity into the main drain. So again, we're not, both of them have got capacity. Yeah.
Any more questions? Any questions, colleagues? Any more? Councillor Cunnington?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again to the lady, just on comments she said, which raises concerns, not concerns, I'd just like to question on it. You said about the tactile paving you put in at the front of the site, at the footpath. Is this going to be done at bare minimum, or is it going to be done to best practice or a good practice? And is there tactile paving on the other side of the road that you're going to be joining to, please? And I will come back.
Yes, the recommendation is from our transport specialist who was employed. He recommends that it's done in accordance with all highway recommendations. So sub-base, sizes, gradients, all that would be in conjunction with highways, and it would have a replicated tactile paving on the opposite side of the road. So anybody with partial sight or needed that, it would be there for them.
Thank you. Any more questions, colleagues? Any questions of Mr. Whitehouse, for instance? Okay, well, if you two good people like to return to the public gallery, then I'll open it up for discussion. Yeah.
Taxi at 12:30, isn't it?
Who's that? Oh yeah, Terry. Yes,
You did tell us earlier.
yeah. Okay, colleagues, who's going to open the batting? Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I just can't see any reason why we should disapprove this application. It's 85 site. You can see there's another site by the side of it. The ladies told us that they're going to keep the hedgerows all the way round, and the sewage is likely to go into not affect the village. I would propose that we approve this application.
Councillor Dennis?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second that.
I think it's a development that works within its situation. And I think if we don't, with these villages, if we don't, nobody's going to be able to see it. It just keeps everything alive economically, and that's what we've got to look at.
Thank you.
So I'm well happy to approve it.
Thank you. Any other comments or counter proposals? Councillor McNally?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a comment or a question really. On you've got the site to the north there. So you've got like a space, and then you've got this other site that basically straddles out into, if you look on the map, you would call it open countryside, but then there's another site further down. Where does the cumulative impact sort of come into effect?
Booth, can you respond to that?
You know, what I'm looking at is you know, looking forward at other things.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. It's a good question. I guess there's the classic sort of starting scenario of each proposal on its own merits. And this one works in terms of technical assessments and impacts on highway infrastructure, et cetera, but I guess you would get to a point where cumulatively impacts were problematic, then that's probably the time when, in whatever way, when you may be forced to say, actually, no, it's not suitable. Whether that be landscape impacts, whether it be impacts on highway infrastructure, whatever it might be. But other than that, it's judging each proposal on its own merits and the effects of that proposal on infrastructure in terms to be able to judge, I think.
Okay. Councillor Matthews?
Mr Booth, there's some parking around the reception area. How many additional cars can that take?
It's not on the plan. I'm afraid I can't give you an answer. Just bear with me.
Can you respond to that, Mr Booth? Are you?
Just looking.
Chairman, I'm just wondering whether maybe it's something that the agent could give a clarity.
I think it's, yeah, it's a technical point. So
Yeah. Yes, this is a technical point. Perhaps you can answer the question.
yeah, that one.
That should be that. If the red light comes on, it's working. Is it the red light on? Yes. Yes. We used to get this stuff.
It's on now.
That's it. Yeah. It's GCHQ cast-offs. That's what it is.
That's a problem. Yes, there is a garage which would house several vehicles, and there is an area in the frontage, as you can, well, yeah, you can't see it's moving around. You would probably get at least, without specifying it and getting my scale all out for you, I would say at least 8 to 10 cars on the front. However, there is also visitor parking within the site as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
For yourself, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I've just pulled up the plan myself, and I would generally concur with the agent's position on that. There is an area at the front. It would provide for some nose-in parking next to that garage. So I would concur with where that agent has reached that conclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. If there's no more comments, it's been moved and yes, Councillor Aldridge.
Still here. Are there any play facilities on that development? No, there's not.
I think that'll be to Andy.
You Chair, no, I don't think there's any detailed play facilities on there. There are amenity facilities on there with the lakes, etc., but no specific play facilities that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Right then, it's been moved and seconded for approval. Those in favour, please show.
7, Chairman.
Those against? Carry.
1 against and abstentions.
Any abstentions?
Please. 2,
3.
3.
Is that carried?
Yeah, that's carried. Yeah, just for the minutes, can we note that Councillor Hoare abstained because he missed the beginning of the presentation.
Right, that's been carried.
Okay. Just before we go on, I
Got
think
one more to do, Terry.
Sorry, no, it's just I've got a query at point 7. It says, no, point 6. It says paragraph 163 of the National Planning Policy Framework, well, it talks about minerals.
Well, we've actually we've come to
Done it, but
yeah.
is
Look,
that
actually,
right?
would someone answer that just so we can move on, please, if the answer is succinct?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not.
I just wonder whether it's a typo.
Well, look, can we move on? Perhaps we could discuss
Yes.
it out of committee.
I vow to your
Yeah,
judgment.
right. Okay, we've got one planning application, number 8, which is 113 Brackenborough Road, Louth. Now, I don't have any speakers for this, so Mr. Booth, once again, it's the Andy Booth show. Are you there? Radio. Away you go then.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a
All right, away you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to confirm, it's a full planning permission sought for erection of 3 pairs of semi-detached houses, so 6 dwellings in total, and vehicular accesses at 113 Brackenborough Road in Louth. As members will have seen, recommendations to approve, and the site does have a history of previous permissions on there which have lapsed. The reason it's with committee is primarily because it was considered to be a departure from the allocation in the local plan. So, site location, you can see Pepperell Industrial Estate, Brackenborough Road. The site sits just here. These are residential properties. The site's here, employment land all round over to the northwest and the west. This is frontage area of land here, where the cursor is. Again, you can see 3 pairs of semi-detached fronting onto Brackenborough Road, parking in front. Design, very traditional, contemporary elements to it, but fairly traditional in form. The site itself, this is looking at the site from the existing access which serves the units at the back of the site. So it's this land over here. And again, that's the site you can see there. The building in the distance is the development that's taking place on the opposite side of Brackenborough Road at the moment. And you can see that a little bit clearer. So Brackenborough Road there, existing access, the properties would sit in this area of land here, fronting onto Brackenborough Road. And there again. And that's it. Very brief, Chairman.
Thank you. No speakers, move in. Councillor McNally. Andrew, that's it.
Yeah,
There
thank
you
you,
go.
Chairman.
You're lit up.
I've been past that numerous times throughout the years. I've never understood why it was never houses to start with, so I'll move to approve it.
You move for approval. Councillor Aldridge.
I second.
Excellent. Anybody have comments? Right, been moved and seconded for approval. Those in favour, please show.
So that's 10, Chairman, and none against and 1 abstention.
Right, okay, now just to round things off, item 9 is appeals decided. Would someone move that that's noted? Is that agreed? Okay. And item 10, delegated decisions. Same again. Item 11 is the date of the next meeting, which is in 12th of January next year. And before you all dash off, there was some light refreshments, and I brought some mince pies. They're not past the sell-by date, so don't worry about that. Eh? Oh, I'm generous to a fault.
Stop recording.
Yeah, excellent. I don't want the begging letters.